It's time now for Scoop, our weekly conversation on international media and the political and economic headwinds confronting the industry. We look at who shapes a narrative, explore journalistic ethics, and ask the reporters the difficult questions. With trust in the press at a nadir, it's a critical eye on a critical profession. Could giving a bad review cost a critic their career, or worse, their life? And are there some fans who are tone deaf to the job of a music journalist? First, let's look at how things used to be. Rolling Stone magazine had been notorious for its harsh reviews, only to occasionally give softer takes years later. This is their 1969 take on the Beatles' Abbey Road. It said that the album treads a rather tenuous line between boredom, Beatledom, and bubblegum. Old school critics were notoriously difficult. Just 2 months ago, The New Yorker asked if music criticism has lost its edge.
When I was growing up, critics were critical. That seemed central to what they did. The Waldorf and Statler, the Muppets critics.
On a scale of 1 to 10, here's your score so far.
A site like Pitchfork, they famously once gave a 0.0 to an Australian band called Jet. And instead of writing a review, they had a little video of a chimpanzee peeing into its own mouth. One of the things that music critics started talking about was rockism, which was the idea that critics cared too much about rock and roll. They didn't like R&B. They didn't like mainstream pop music. Over the course of the 2000s and the 2010s, that really began to change. Some people call this trend poptimism. Criticism became a little more driven by consensus, and the consensus often was that all of these popular albums were pretty good.
So rockism, poptimism, and perhaps another useful term is stan. Some say it's a mixture of the words stalker and fan, but it most likely goes back a quarter of a century to an Eminem song of the same name.
Dear Slim, you still ain't called a roll. I hope you have a chance. I ain't mad. I just think it's up you don't answer fans. If you didn't want to talk to me outside the concert, you didn't have to. But you could have signed an autograph for Matthew. That's my little brother, man. He's only 6 years old. We waited in the blistering cold for you for 4 hours and you just said no. That's pretty, man. You're like an idol. He wants to be just like you, man. He likes you more than I do.
Now, about 6 years ago, NPR wrote that the word stan used to be synonymous with overzealous or obsessed, but it's become a badge of honor for fans committed enough to show up and go all out for their favorite star on the internet. So there's a lighter side of being a stan. For instance, posting your reaction to Taylor Swift's latest album, like here on Chats and Reacts.
We're gonna hear a new track one. We are sitting down to react to the live of the show, girl, and I'm actually sick, like I might throw up. We're gonna get it. What is she going to say to us today? I just, you know what? I feel like if you're not a massive Taylor Swift fan, it's just like, this is genuinely life-altering.
That's not a parody. That is genuine enthusiasm. But what happens when people cross the line? Because there's a darker side to stan culture as well. Like after one critic did not give a positive review to Swift's latest album, a user posted on X, quote, "I hope you get fired for your clearly biased review. You are the bane of journalism and deserve nothing short of a painful long life in some gulag in Siberia to realize how awful of a human being you are." And that's just trolling. But it gets worse. There's no shortage of articles documenting fans harassing critics over their reviews, including this headline from the Business Insider, quote, "Taylor Swift's fans sent me death threats, doxed my family, and accused me of being a pedophile." And it's not just Swifties. Name your pop star. From pop to K-pop, Drake, Nicki Minaj, BTS, and beyond. So what does this all mean in a bigger picture? Let's bring in our guests, Minjae, a pop critic based in Seoul, and John Doran, the editor and co-founder of the Quietus. He joins us from Wiltshire. Hello to you both. Just want to begin with you, Minjae. 2 questions. You've received a lot of abuse. Is it based where you are in Seoul, or is it international? And what's the worst abuse you've experienced firsthand?
I'm based in Seoul, but some of the most unexpected attacks came from the Middle East and Africa, of course, America and Europe too. I still remember being shocked when an Iraqi country code appeared on my phone one day. And there have been constant hacking attempts on my social media accounts, and some even used my name and email to sign up for random websites. So my inbox became completely unusable. It was really shocking and surreal.
Yeah, Minjae, stay with us on that. Some outlets have published negative reviews anonymously to spare the critics the backlash. Do threats like these raise a prospect of self-censorship, and how much of a concern is that?
It's really harmful and dangerous to me, but I think it even get worse that I've already faced. But my attitude has been more like, let's just ignore, wait and see. Usually it fades after a week or two.
John, you're in a very different world, metal, techno, folk, industrial. I don't know if fans in those genres display similar behavior, but you do have regular investigative pieces that are very serious. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so the only time I'm really worried about kind of blowback from stuff we publish is when we talk about the intersection between the international neo-Nazi movement and how they try and infiltrate kind of underground scenes across Europe and through the world. Because in that situation, we're talking about groups like the Order of Nine Angles who actually have murdered and tortured people in the past. So my concern there is that is an appropriate time for writers to be anonymous, or if I'm using a named writer who might be an academic, to ensure that I don't accidentally give away their location if they happen to be in hiding. I know it's awful when people pile on you online, but I have to say that I also thought it was ridiculous that the Paste review of the Taylor Swift album last year came out as under an anonymous name. I felt like, compared to the number of actual news journalists who've been killed in the Middle East over the last 2 years, that we've got it quite easy as music journalists.
Yeah, that's very important context. John, the other thing you're doing when you're publishing those pieces about neo-Nazis is you're providing context about this music, about the cultural scene, about this modern time we're in. So where we are as a world, as a society, and I wonder if that would be lost if music critics were to disappear.
Yeah, of course. You know, like I mean, the way that I look at it is music itself is pre-language. You know, it's music comes from parents singing to a newborn child, and you know, probably hot on the heels of that came a much discussion about whether this singing to the child was good or not. I see music criticism as fundamental to life, you know. But also, if you look at streaming services, it's an avalanche that no one person can get through on their own. 3.6 million new tracks are uploaded every month to Spotify. I need someone to help me through it. You do, everyone does. It would take something like 40 years to listen to every single new track that's put up by Spotify in 1 month.
Yeah, in the streaming services, that's an argument against getting rid of critics. It's also an argument that some give for getting rid of critics. Minjae, some say album reviews are losing importance. Before streaming platforms, critics were particularly helpful to help people decide whether to shell out $15 or $20 for an album. Minjae, are critics a dying breed?
Yeah, we are a dying breed, but yeah, we are still relevant. Of course, people don't need critics to decide whether to shell out money for an album or a single something else anymore. For just $10 a month, people can listen to every piece of music all around the world. But because people can listen to everything, critics can tell the stories behind the music and give context to its value if listeners are open enough not to take criticism personally.
John, since the technology has changed how we listen to music, do music critics need to change how they do their job for the reader? Is there something that they need to offer today that they didn't have to offer a generation or two ago?
Sure, yeah. What I want is what I try to provide myself, which is an insight born on years of research and years of listening. I know there are a whole bunch of journalists all over the world that I turn to who can give me a unique perspective. And the best of them, like, they're not always really talking about the music, but they're talking about music as a key to understanding everything else about life.
Yeah, that's really important. John, I got to ask you, Frank Zappa once said, quote, music journalism consists of individuals who can't write, interviewing those who can't speak for audiences who can't read. What would you say to Frank Zappa, John?
And nothing. So Frank Zappa didn't say that. I mean, he might have said it, but he was copying off a musician called Elvis Costello. Elvis Costello took it from a comedian called Martin Mull. Martin Mull took it from a phrase that was used by economists 100 years earlier, which was used by critics 100 years earlier. So what I would say to that is this is why you need music journalists. You need someone who knows this information, who can talk about it, you know?
Yeah, very good point. Minjae, just curious, all these pressures we're talking about in terms of doing your job day to day, what do you see as the biggest challenge for music criticism moving forward?
In Korea, there are so many Instagram magazines there instead of something like critics, so they can go to backstage and interview artists, but they're not critics, so they do not know about the history or the information fully. So maybe it's not very easy to lie, but maybe I have to stick around here.
Running out of time, but I want to ask you guys real quickly. John, you go first. Minjae, you follow up. You get commissioned to give a review for an AI band. Would you take the assignment, John?
I would use it as like a Trojan horse in order to question the relevancy of AI music. Yeah.
Minjae, what would you do? Would you take the assignment?
I don't think so. It's not music at this time for now.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of our guests, John Doran and Minjae Jung, joining us. They're music critics, doing a good job. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And that brings us to our quote of the week, and it comes from The Guardian. And it says, quote, "This is horrible anti-artistic behavior from people wanting total consensus. That would be a strange and damaging thing to want, even in politics, where some degree of consensus is necessary to make a democracy run. In art, though, this impulse is downright fascistic." That's it for this edition of Scoop. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.